Okay. So I'm really sick of this, but I don't care about this. We're gonna do it anyway. Alright, let's go. Alright. So, hello, good afternoon, evening. I hope you are well. Everyone's talking about Final Fantasy XIV these days. Everybody's presenting their opinion. There's a lot of discourse. Some of it is good, some of it is bad. I have my own positions, and I guess I will share them today. I will try to be brief. I made a video and forgot to turn my microphone on. I'm really bad at this. I hate public speaking too. About me, in addition to being terrible at this, I started the game in 2.3. I was in the Navy at the time. A friend of mine got me to give it a shot. It was the patch before Ninja came out, and there goes a hunt train, I suspect. Yep. I'm capped on tomes for the week, it's fine. Yeah, so I started then. I leveled kind of casual, and also being busy all the time at the time. But, I remember getting to level 40-ish something, got to Northern Thanlan, and that weekend, that Saturday, there were a whole bunch of 7 ninja parties looking for healer, and so I rode the Fate Train wave, because that was a thing back then, all the way up to level cap, and it was actually a memorable experience that Saturday, so, you know, it's cool. I've been played for a long time. I like the game. I've had my sub-laps basically none since then, just, you know, 1 month here or there. White Mage Scholar Summoner in ARR, added Paladin in Heavensward, added Red Mage in Stormblood, and now I've got, you know, all kinds of things that need to tone it down. But yeah, so, you know, I've got a breadth of experience, and I have been playing the game for a while, and I do know the glory days of Heavensward and Stormblood and all that. I'm going to try to be quicker, though, this time, so let's go. A couple things in the discourse that needs to be adjusted. Remember the human. Be kind. And as someone once said, know that you are appreciated. We're all the same species. I grew up watching Star Trek. There are bad guy aliens around everywhere, and then there's humans, and that's cool. We are kin. So let's try to act like it. We can be siblings, we can be annoyed with each other, but we're still the same. You know, we're still human at the end of the day. Remember the human, be nice. Try not to be hyperbolic. Exaggeration is a way of life for humans. I'm remembering the human by understanding other people will exaggerate. But I will tell you, if you tell me there's a 1-button rotation for healers, I will look at my hotbar and I will tell you I have glare, I have dia, I have a size, I have glare 4, I have presence of mind, I have a flatus, solace, and rapture, because those are DPS buttons contributing to misery. They contribute to your MP regeneration effectively per minute, and misery is a damage buff in buff windows. It's a damage gain because it's the equivalent of casting 4 glares all at once, which is a bigger thing to boost. And I will tell you, in between doing all that, I will be weaving OGCDs. And those are a lot more than 1 button. And you will tell me, but I didn't literally mean 1 button. Okay, then don't say 1 button. Right? Hyperbole, it's destructive to conversation because it, at best, distracts the conversation. Try not to exaggerate as much. The game is not the worst ever thing. It is not jobs are not brain dead. They still require some modicum of thought. Summoner, the game does not play it for you. I have played Summoner. If I don't push any buttons and set my controller down, the game does not clear content for me. The character just sits there and dies to AoEs. So, limit the hyperbole, limit the exaggerations a bit. Just try to say what you mean, because if you say 1-button rotation, my probably on the spectrum brain is going to analyze that and come up with a counter to that. If what you mean is, I would like more dots or I'd like more damage buttons, just say that, because we can have a conversation. Yeah? Recognize that your tastes, your preferences, your subjective opinions are your own. And that's great. No one can tell you that you are wrong if you like something. Likewise, you cannot tell other people that they are wrong to like things. Right? Subjective opinion is subjective opinion. If your favorite color is purple and mine is blue, neither of us are more right or more wrong. People can judge that in the comments. They will also be wrong. I can say that. It's okay to have your own opinion. And it's okay for other people to have their opinion. Life is not a zero-sum game where if my argument wins, yours loses. There are neutral grounds that we can both have some success. In economics, they call this Pareto improving trades. Learn the concept. It's a really good life lesson. Anyway, allow some nuance. Try to be nice to people. Try not to exaggerate your positions. I think those things are toxic for the communication and conversation right now, and I've already wasted 5 minutes talking about it. So moving on. Problems with the game. If I'm good at video editing, bam, there's a graph. If not, I just said bam, and that was anticlimactic. Bimodal means 2 humps on a camel. Think low on one end, hump number 1, low in the middle, hump number 2, low on the, backside. On the low end, there's not enough content. And what I mean by this is the game is harder, objectively, than it used to be. That is not a subjective opinion. Do the first dungeon of Heavensward. No, maybe they've changed that now. Do the first dungeon of Stormblood. Maybe they changed that too. But even at content, the mechanics were easier than the first dungeon bosses in Dawntrail. The final boss at one point in Dawntrail, I mean, all the bosses are harder, but the final boss has, like 2 tornadoes circling the room and some star-shaped, line AoEs in all directions. The boss is also doing cleaves and that circle thing you have to get to. I think there might be a hash ground attack. I mean, there's a bunch going on, and the cadence is faster. This is true across things too. Extremes, do Byakuya Unreal, it's about to go away. Where we'll have the Phoenix Lady Unreal, Suzaku. But the point is that things used to be mechanically easier, and the cadence was slower. Rubicante is kind of an outlier, but most modern content, the bosses wind up mechanics faster, they layer mechanics, you have to have more that you keep in memory of, oh, the boss did this, I need to remember that. It's like the first Savage fight where you need to remember which way she jumps twice, and what direction, and rotate that in your head, and all that. That stuff used to not be a thing. Right? Mechanically, encounters are more complex. They are more difficult. Job design is easier, but the mechanics are objectively harder. So what we've run into is, on the low end, people are upset that the game is too hard. People that like to chill. I worked 40 hours a week. For a little while, I wasn't doing experts because they were too stressful when I came home from work. I did main story, quest roulette, praetorium and stuff, and that's how I capped tomes in the early part of this expansion. And sometimes people want that. I've done extremes. I've done savages. It's sometimes I just want to chill, and I have to get in the headspace because I'm that kind of person where it takes me an afternoon. If I'm going to do an extreme, I'm going to spend, an hour watching a Hector lecture video and memorizing the patterns, and I'm going to spend, 20 minutes on a target dummy, if I'm playing a DPS anyway, before I go in. And then I've got to wind down after I'm done. It's like that's the way it is. And some people want to just chill most of the time. We might like harder content. We might do it sometimes, but not all the time. And then you got that group of people. So the first hump, where a lot of content is too hard for them, and a lot of people have left the game. If people talk about load sub numbers, a good chunk of that is people left the game because it's too hard, not because it's too easy. They complained about it on Reddit and the official forums, and they were mocked, jeered at, and people told them good riddance. You don't want that. It's not good for a game when you're running people off, and it's not good for you as a human being to treat other human beings that way. Fair? It's just not. So then you've got the first hump. And then you've got the lull in the middle. Well, what's the problem here? Well, now you've got these people who the first hump is too easy for, but the next hump is too hard for. Well, what are they going to do? Right? This is why people are complaining they don't have any content. And then you got the next hump. Well, it's there, but then you got people on the high end that are like, oh, well, that's too easy. But the people in the middle are like, well, that's too hard, right? The problem is we've made a bimodal system. If you look at it 5 points on a line, there's a big hump at 2 where there's a lot of content. There's a big hump at 4 where there's a lot of content. But there's not very much at 3, 1, or 5. So the people on the high end feel bored. The people in the middle feel like they have nothing to do because the content's either boring to them on the easy side or too hard on the hard side. Then you got people on the low end that are either people that are casual gamers or people, that just want to chill while playing, or people that are, new to gaming, or maybe they just want like main story, quest, story, and that's it. And they all feel like it's too hard or too stressful. What we need is a more even distribution. This is why we need exploration content earlier, so I'll get to that bullet point now. The patch cadence. Longer patches? Okay. But we need exploration content earlier. We need more content that is A, evergreen, and B, appeals to lots of players. Savage Raids appeals to people that like a 4 on that difficulty scale. Boja appeals to 1 through 5. Right? You've got duels for people that want to go really hardcore. You've got Deliberate Revolutionary Savage for the people that are in the 4 area. You've got, the boss fights like Red Chalktober for the people in the middle. Maybe that's a little too hard, but you get what I mean. You've got, the anyone at a 1 or a 2, you can come in at a 2 difficulty and do, Dalrada or something. And if you're at the 1 and you just want to go in and just chill and grind mats and collect clusters, you've got that. So it appeals to everybody. We need that content earlier. 4-month patch cycle isn't terrible. The problem is the content order. That stuff should not... It shouldn't be 7.25, halfway through the expansion and 2 months after 7.2 when that comes out, right? We need that sort of stuff way earlier. The game has already solved these problems. The devs have already solved this problem. They just, for some reason, don't want to use that solution, and I don't know why. Let's put in chaotic. Okay, cool. Maybe you should do that in 7.25 because chaotic is basically a second or third floor savage raid. That's not solving our problem, and it's not making bridge content to people to get into savage raiding when it's as hard as savage raiding, right? But yeah, so that's a bunch of bullet points. Hopefully I'm not getting too carried away, and I'll try to finish up pretty quick here. One thing about healer specifically, because I'm a healer main. One button spam, we don't have. Nuke spam plus dot, we don't have. There's way more buttons that you're pressing. The thing is, some people really love the OGCD weaves. Me personally, I remember playing ARR as a white mage. You had one off global cooldown heal. It was Benediction on a 6-minute cooldown. You did not heal with that as your main source of healing. The idea of weaving was a thing, but white mage used to be mainly global cooldown healer. It still kind of is, with Lily substituting his global cooldown since Misery is a damage gain under buffs and damage neutral otherwise, which effectively gives you 1600 MP a minute since you're not casting glares, right? And white mage is the least spammy of the glare spam, you know, the nuke spams. Glare spam is kind of a poor choice of name. It should be broil spam because Scholar is the one that's actually worst at this. But some people love the off global cooldown weaving gameplay. Some people love making healing plans. I am not one of them. I like emergent gameplay. I like reacting on the fly with smart choices. So I like white mage better. I like what it used to be better. In a way, I really think white mage is as good of a place as it's ever been. Stormblood white mage sucked. You know, when it launched, you had a 20% chance when casting Cure 1 on somebody of getting a Lily that lowered an off global cooldown by 4%. It was like 4, 10, 20 for 3 stacks, or 1, 2, and 3 respectively. It was garbage. Scholars were upset when Stormblood came out. Astrologians were upset when Stormblood came out. Machinists and Dark Knights were upset. White mages were not. A lot of people liked the Stormblood changes, or the Shadowbringers changes. So, you know, people need a little more nuance in these arguments. I've been around for a long time, and I've been through it all. I was there. It's fair for Scholar players to say, I wish I still had my more dots. It's not fair to say every job was better in Shadowbringers, or Stormblood, because that is not true. White Mage was not. White Mage and Stormblood was probably the worst iteration of the job in the game. But anyway, so some people like the off-global cooldown game. Some people like the strategic planning of cooldowns game. And then there are people like me that like more, it does what it says on the tin. This is the heal I need or the shield I need for this situation. I'm going to use it, right? Here's the deal. We've got 4 healers. Why not just make one that uses each of those playstyles? Wouldn't that be a trip, right? For Scholar to have its Stormblood rotation back, you know, dots back, and Astrologian to be super power weaving a bunch of off global cooldowns, and hey, you know what, for Sage, instead of doing the cast thing, why not give it a 1-2-3 weapon skill combo and make it a Machinist Light? You know, kind of like how Gunbreaker is a melee DPS Light. Have a 1-2-3, make it build a gauge of some kind, and when it does, you have a button that you can use that lets you hyper speed weave, you know, like whatever that thing is Machinist has, hypercharge. Where you can just spit out a bunch of phlegmas, and every one you do, it lowers the cooldown on Psyche so that you can weave that off global cooldown damage more often, you know? Shake it up. It's different. Make them different from each other. Having a nuke and dot rotation isn't a bad thing. It's when all 4 of the healers have the same rotation-ish that it's a bad thing. They're still different. All of them are. I don't like playing Astrologian because it's way more complicated than White Mage, and I don't like the abilities are more convoluted to use, but some people absolutely love that, and I think it's good for the game. When WoW launched, you know, it had Hunters, which were easy to play, and it had Warlocks that were hard to play, and it had a bunch of stuff in the middle. I had somebody I knew, her grandma liked Paladins so much, she leveled 3 of them. You know, and it was considered a job that was so easy for a little while. Something somebody wrote on the forums about how it's a great job because you can play it one-handed and watch Netflix in your other screen, you know. People like all different kinds of things, and a good game has all different kinds of things, and it lets people engage in it at their level. Oh, but I don't want to do more you know, if I had to do more work, I should be rewarded. Your reward, Misshapen Chair said this in his video on healers, he argued the same thing, that all 4 of the healers should be different. Your reward is that you get to have fun. It is okay for White Mage to be as it is today, with one exception I'll get to in a sec. The problem is when all 4 of the healers have the same rotation. right? We need to mix it up. We need some nuance. We need some differences. That way everybody can enjoy something. Again, Pareto improving trades. Not everything needs to be the same. Me getting what I want doesn't mean you don't get anything either. You know, I think most healers would be pretty happy right now, of all kinds, if we had Scholar more like the, you know, Stormblood and Heaven's Word of Realm Reborn Scholar, where it was kind of a support damage dealer with support healy abilities in terms of how it was built and put together. And some people would like, you know, a short GCD cast time, you know, like Astrologian back when it was the one that pioneered the 1.5 second nuke with dot, because it had so many OGCDs. And then some people like me, we like White Mage, you know, and we can all live in this happy sandbox together and play together. That's cool. The idea is that not every job is going to appeal to you or me, and I'm an adult enough person, I'm a mature enough person to say, hey, you know what, I don't like Black Mage, but I like Summoner, and I like Red Mage. And Black Mage being around is good for the people that like that kind of gameplay. And the game needs that for the people that like that kind of gameplay. But it also needs Summoner. It also needs Red Mage. It needs Monk. It needs, you know, all these different jobs. It needs Dark Arts, Stormblood, Dark Knight, because some people had a blast with that gameplay. But it also needs Dawntrail, Warrior, and Paladin, because some people have a blast with that. Paladin's easier, by the way. I will die on this hill. Warrior has gauges to manage, and it has upkeep to manage, and I tend to forget upkeeps. That's why I have button. I do that every time. I've done that in every one of these video attempts I made. But I have a thing, a macro, where it'll play Danger Bongos for me after 30 seconds because I will forget this stupid dot. I hate dots. I hate upkeep things. I like just doing stuff and it doing what it says on the tin, and that's great. I also recognize not everybody else likes that, and I want things to make those people happy because I'm not a Danger Bongo. Yes, thank you, game. Because I'm a mature adult and I want other people to be happy too, and I recognize it's not a zero-sum game. You know, if 8.0 leaves White Mage the same as is and changes all the other healers to be more complex, you know what? That's great, because other people have something they can enjoy too. The healer barrier pure split needs to go away, though. Final remark on that. Plenary Indulgence. Give it 10% damage reduction. That would be parity with Red Mage. That would be parity with Astrologian, which has Collective Unconscious on a 60-second cooldown. Healing checks are now mitigation checks. White Mage needs a shorter duration. Call it Pro Shell. It existed once. Give it a 10-second duration with Plenary. And make it do 10% damage reduction. Easy Band-Aid fix. You know, ideally, you could give me a Lily Spender that does an AoE Gobskin like a Blue Mage. That's a barrier. I mean, you know, Scholar has Indom. Sage has Ixoclay. So, you know, they get to be pure healers. Why doesn't White Mage get to be a barrier healer? All three other healers are jumping all over the line between the pure and barrier. White Mage should too. Again, it should just go away. But just give me that Band-Aid OCP and I'll be happy. Because it's really the only problem I have with White Mage right now. And the other healers, guess what? If people like different things, give us different things. Mix it up. Misshapen Chair is right. Make a Galaxy Brain healer and let people figure out if they like it or not, right? Give one a bunch of dots and let people who enjoy dots like it, right? Give one, leave one alone like White Mage and let people who enjoy it like it, and we can all be happy together, and that's a good world to me. I would give a short, recap, but I've gone through so much already, and this is 18 minutes long, and I really suck at this. Hey, guess what? If you have your character, push pause break, they look at the camera. That's cool. Have a good night, everybody. And do be kind. We are all in this little sandbox together, and I think we can get along. We just need to, be nice to each other and have good conversations. Alright, have a good night.